All righty. Well, go ahead and get this started then. All right. Hi, welcome to the webinar today. We're going to discuss ways to reduce employee turnover and optimize your restaurant for maximum profitability. Let me get started off by introducing myself. My name's Jared Dial. I am currently the HR restaurant advisor at Atlantic Payroll Partners, and I'm a franchise owner at Hungry Howie's. For those of you who haven't heard of Hungry Howie's is a chain of pizzerias offering carry-out and delivery service. There are 600 locations nationwide, and our model is very similar to Domino's or Papa John's. I started off working with Atlantic right out of college, and one of our clients one day was venting to me about wanting to sell one of his locations. And at the time, I thought it was be a good investment and a good opportunity, so I jumped on it. I'd never worked in a restaurant prior to that. All I'd ever done was ate at one. So I ended up having to learn every aspect of the business as far as making the food, delivering the pizza, the cash register, all that good stuff. And what I did was I applied the stuff I'd learned at Atlantic as far as the bookkeeping and the fundamentals of business and applied it to my pizza restaurant. Within the first year of owning it, I was able to double my revenue and decrease my food and labor costs by 20% by using the Atlantic strategy. Enough about me on that one. So some of the key topics we're going to discuss are how to manage food costs, increase revenue through menu options and community relationships, manage labor costs, and how to reduce employee turnover utilizing employee incentives and benefits. So we'll start off with the portion control. One of the key ingredients to great service is a consistent product delivered in a timely manner. An easy way to speed up production in the kitchen and manage portion control is to pre-portion as many items as possible. The ingredients you will be able to pre-portion will vary depending on what type of restaurant you have. A couple of examples from the pizza industry are chicken wings, fajita chicken, steak for Philly cheesesteaks, spaghetti noodles, things of that nature. Count or weigh the ingredients out to the desired serving size, then place them in small portion bags. This technique may take a few extra minutes in the morning, but cutting out an extra step or two will saving 10 or 15 seconds off making an item will help you be more efficient and stay on time with your orders. Being more efficient during the rush times also helps the closing crew at the end of the night. I'm sure most of you have encountered a hectic night that left the kitchen a mess. From my personal experience, I've noticed that controlling the chaos during peak hours will shave down time on your closing procedures. And cutting 15, 20 minutes off of a closing crew equates to significant payroll savings. The next step is to find the most expensive and most used ingredient in your restaurant and figure out the cost per ounce or per serving. In the pizza business, this ingredient would definitely be the cheese. Let me explain of why it's so important to pre-portion these ingredients and to weigh them. At just one of our locations, we sell an average of 1,000 large pizzas per week. Let's imagine my cook is freehanding just the cheese and is off 1 or 2 ounces of half of the largest sold by freehanding and not weighing. An ounce of cheese is 12.5 cents right now. So 12.5 cents times 500 equals $62.50. That's $250 a month. This is a very conservative example considering we are assuming the cook only overtops half of the large pieces and only overtops the cheese. This does not include other sizes and ingredients or other products, such as our salads, subs, breads, other things like that. So now you can imagine how not weighing or portioning your ingredients as much as possible can drastically affect your overall food cost. At just one of our locations, there is easily over 5,000 items sold in a month with cheese. Now you can do the math for your restaurant and whatever that ingredient may be, and it may frighten you how much money is literally going out the door. Some of the other ways to increase speed and efficiency is to use measuring cups and portion meats and veggies on your prep table. Take a moment to weigh the ingredients in the cups so you know exactly how much of each ingredient you need in that and how much it weighs. You'll need a few different sizes of cups because density will vary on each ingredient. And the cups are mainly used for speed because some things you can't always weigh. So refer to your handbook guidelines for the amount of each product. And after you've done this research, which only really takes a few minutes, then you'll have the right size cup for each section of your prep table in your kitchen. The next small step that is probably the most overlooked in managing food costs is managing the employee meals or employee discounts. Employee discounts vary from one owner to the next. I personally offer 40% off of menu price. No coupons, no specials are included, just menu price. Employee meals probably doesn't seem like that big of a problem, or it's too small to worry about. But I've seen where something so small can turn into such a big issue. Imagine half of your employees each day making one small item that costs $1 or $2. And don't forget about drinks such as sodas or alcohol. That even raises that price more. It can be much higher. If not monitored, this will add up very, very fast. Let's say there are only 5 employees eating $2 worth of food, which is really, really low, especially if you're in a bigger restaurant. That's $10 a day, 30 days in a month. It's $300 a month. So that right there, that could be a phone bill, your gas bill, a car payment. I think you probably are getting the point now of how these pennies can turn into dollars. So let's move on to food costs and percentages and how to calculate them. When calculating and monitoring food costs, you must use the previous week's sales to determine your next food order and to track the usage from the week before. Virtually all POS systems have reports to track sales by order types and have reports to track which menu items and are sold and things like that. This piece of information is very, very important to monitor food costs and will allow you to see if certain menu items are being portioned correctly. Right here, here's an example of the formula I use to determine food costs. You can tweak this formula to fit your desired food cost percentage. Ours is 20%. And then you put your sales. So you put your sales in there and times it by the 20% or your target percentage, and that'll give you an allowance. When we place our main truck orders, which is once a week, I pull the report for the previous week's sales, which will let me know my budget for this week's order. If for some reason I make my order and it's $500 too high, then I know I have to investigate why. Did we order something out of the ordinary? Was the product not being portioned correctly? Was there a high number of mistakes or voids? What was the problem? This simple formula, along with detailed reports about your store metrics, will allow you to micromanage the real small, minute details. So let's tie all this together. Be precise with your portion control by weighing ingredients, manage employee meals, and be more efficient in the kitchen to decrease your wait times. And all this will add up to thousands of dollars to your net profit annually. So now we've talked about food costs. Let's move on to revenue growth. We've established that when you achieve optimum food cost percentages, your profit will increase. So now you're probably asking, how do I increase my sales to make even more money? The restaurant model is very simple in theory. The more you sell, the more you should make, especially if you hit your target metric percentages. Now let's imagine your annual revenue increases by 100,000. I know I would be very excited if mine increased by 100,000. The overall answer to it in a way to increase that revenue is to increase your ticket averages and your order counts. Both of these are achieved through the same through the assistance of fundamentals that we just previously discussed. So let's start with ticket averages. And let's use a restaurant as an example with a monthly order count of 3,000. So you have 3,000 orders per month, and we'll just, for easy numbers, use $10 a ticket average. Imagine if you could increase your ticket by 50 cents, a dollar, or even $2 or $3. A dollar increase would be 3,000 extra in revenue. Of that 3,000, your overhead would only be the food cost, because we haven't increased your order counts yet, only the ticket average. So your employees are already in place, your building overhead is all the same, all your traditional overhead is still consistent. So it'd be safe to say that of that $3,000, you'd profit 70 to 80% of that, which equates to $2,100 a month. Think of a high volume restaurant with 1,000 or more orders a day. Just 50 cents turns into huge gains. Now let's dig deep into how we increase our average by 50 cents or a dollar. And remember, once again, I'm not limiting you to 50 cents or a dollar. I've personally have had $4 and $5 increases. The first step is to ring up your customers correctly. You're probably thinking that this is a no-brainer, which it kind of is, but it's, once again, often overlooked. If you've been in the business long enough, you know how easy it is for a customer to get a free drink, or an employee gives a customer an extra serving because they're a friend, or quite frankly, the employee's just being lazy that day. Something as simple as asking the customer if they would like a drink, an appetizer, or a dessert will pay big dividends to your ticket average. So if you're selling that $5 dessert, in theory, you only have to sell it once, and that covers 5 people. So it's not like, don't get discouraged if not all 100 people don't order a dessert. The next thing is to limit the number of items or entrees to a manageable amount on your menu. You don't have to offer everything to everybody. It is definitely better to be great at a few things than to be okay at everything. And having too big of a menu also, it slows down production in your kitchen by offering too much. Not to mention, it'll make it almost impossible to have the freshest ingredients to serve the best product possible. Placement of items on the menu is also very, very big into how they sell. The third page or the back of a menu typically sells the least. You want to place your higher price, your more desired entrees at the top or middle of your menu. People tend to go with the first few options that are offered. That being said, limit the number of specials offered. Have you ever had a customer ask you, hey, what's your specials today? And when you start giving them a laundry list of deals, they kind of glaze over and ask you, hey, what was that first one? I remember this used to happen to me all the time when we had too many specials and too big of a menu. That's when I started limiting everything. Let's take a look at why Chipotle is so successful. They have a very simple menu with only 4 or 5 different options. Customers don't want to come in. They don't want to read a book about food. Offering too much will also negatively affect your wait times. I do want to mention a way I've had success in increasing revenue. That is by building relationships with schools, churches, local youth sports, things like that. This works if you sell a product that suits them. Pizzas, subs, salads, pastas, even ice cream works good too. Let's face it, people like to buy from businesses that support the community. I've had success by just calling up the baseball or softball coach and saying, hey, how can I help you? How can I get involved? We've had concession stand deals set up that seem to work the best. I usually donate 2 or 3 pizzas, sometimes more, depending on how big the sport is. And then I will sell them the extra pizzas if they need them at a very discounted rate. The teams, they sell those pizzas or the slices for $2 or $3 a piece, and that generates revenue for them. And not to mention, it's really good advertising for us. Usually, we're able to cover the cost of the ones I donate because the extra pizzas and extra product counterbalances it. And then one thing you can't forget is you got to negotiate a banner or some kind of advertisement in the field, the outfield, or in the rafters of the gym, something like that. Think outside the box with your restaurant. This strategy also works with football, soccer, basketball, anything that has a concession stand. One last thing before we move on, you can use this same strategy in industrial areas or high employee count businesses. I'm fortunate enough, we have a Walmart distribution and an Amazon fulfillment center in our delivery zone. And usually we get about 1 order at each of those locations, and then some other businesses too that are 1 order a quarter. That's $2,000 or $3,000. So it's kind of like catering, but kind of not. You just get in there and get involved. So let's move on to time management. We've already discussed how to keep track of your metrics using food cost formulas, decrease food costs while being more efficient, and grow your overall revenue. So now it's time to discuss the most important part, and that's securing key employees and controlling labor costs with time management. Right here is an example of how to calculate labor cost. This is identical to calculating the food cost. The first step in making a schedule template is to pull the previous weekly sales report along with the hourly sales report for each day. Study that data, and you will see trends and discover peak hours in each day. If you're in an area with tourism, you will really notice patterns with the different seasons. Here's an example of a template that I use. I like to break the shifts into 4 and 8 hour blocks. Also, you can see how I stagger the start and end times of each shift. This helps cut down on cost and still provides adequate coverage for rush times. You can adjust the shift times and number of employees to fit your store and your sales, whether it's lunch or dinner. But this is a way to not make it a free-for-all with the employees. I have different templates for different times of the year. For example, I have a summer template and a winter template, and I even adjust those times according to daylight savings times. I've noticed here in Florida, the rush seems to start earlier in the winter and later in the summer. All right, let's talk about turnover and retention. Have you ever heard of the sports analogy? You're only as good as your weakest teammate. I personally have found this to be very true in business too. You can bring in all the sales you want, but if the team members can't deliver the product correctly, it will pretty much be a waste of time and money. One of the hardest aspects of our industry in restaurants is turnover and retention. High turnover accounts for extra payroll costs, along with unemployment claims. Turnover will hinder product consistency because of constantly having a greenhorn or a newbie making the product and servicing the customer. Not to mention, you always have a couple extra employees. You're always training new people. So you can't just have them in there one day and then they go out. You're always constantly having that extra one or two manpower. So one way I've kind of cured that turnover is by giving manager incentives. I have personally secured long-term managers by putting them on a bonus program. I lower the base pay slightly, and then I give up to a 1.5% bonus of net sales per month. 1.5% probably sounds pretty high to you, but let me explain this. I base the bonus off a 10-point scale. There are 4 categories: food cost, labor cost, store cleanliness, and customer service. Each category is worth 2.5 points. So an example, if the food and labor is in the allotted range, the store is clean, the wait times are low, and there's no customer complaints or very little, then they get a full 10 points. Each point is worth 0.1%. So the bonus would be a full 1% of net sales. So if the sales are $50,000, that would be $500. Let's say they had a bad month. The food cost is 1% over the range. Labor is another 1% high, and the store is filthy. You complete the grading scale, and they only achieved 7 points. Then you multiply your net sales of 50,000 by 0.007, so 0.7%, which equates to $350. So now you can probably see where I'm going with this grading scale. Now let's use an example of if the manager overachieves, and this is where I put the 1.5% cap on there. Let's say food cost is 2% under, labor is another 1% under the range. The store is clean, the wait times are perfect. Then the manager will get a bonus 2 points for food and a bonus 1 point for labor for a total of 13. So 50,000 times 1.3%, that's 650. So you can see where this kind of gives the manager incentives to achieve all the cost metrics and to have great service and to keep long-term employees. I know me personally, I've been burned in the past because I've hired a manager that supposedly has tons of experience, and then I found out they get lazy and the food and labor costs go through the roof and service goes down. And it's usually not a good situation that way. If you got to give them incentives. So let's move on to employee benefits. Employee benefits is, in my opinion, the most important tool in securing quality long-term employees. 68% of employees say improving their benefits would make them happier at their job. Voluntary benefits through Atlantic, like 401k, pay cards, and various insurances such as life, disability, accident, dental, vision, etc., will help to attract key employees and maintain those relationships. Providing these kind of benefits also gives that employee the sense of a career versus just a job. So let's discuss 401k. How many restaurants do you know offer 401k? Think of the competitive advantage you would have if you offered 401k benefits. Think of how much of an impact that would have on a young adult working at your restaurant. And let's say they're in college and they're able to start their retirement fund at such a young age. And even if they do graduate and they move on to their chosen career, they'll be able to roll those funds over to their next job. I've seen this option help maintain quality employees for years while they go through school, or even just someone that's a career chef. So the next thing is, you might be wondering, what are pay cards? Pay cards act like debit cards. This is a great benefit for the employees that don't have bank accounts or do not want direct deposit. The money is loaded on the card and the employee can swipe the card just like debit cards. They can swipe them at grocery stores, gas pumps, and even withdraw cash from an ATM. There's over 50,000 ATMs eligible the employee is allowed up to 4 ATM withdrawals a month for free. This can be a benefit for the employer too, because we waive the delivery fee if all the employees are direct deposit or on pay cards, and all the services are done electronic. Not to mention, if the manager accidentally leaves an employee off the timesheet for whatever reason, we can instantly deposit their money immediately on that pay card versus having to FedEx a check and then wait for money, which that can't happen. I can't forget to mention voluntary benefits. Atlantic offers great dental, vision, disability, accident, and term life policies. These benefits are offered to the employees at no cost to you, the employer. I'm personally enrolled in our dental, life, and accident programs. The dental program a couple years ago saved me thousands when I had my wisdom teeth removed. And then the accident policy really helped me out when I was water skiing last summer and dislocated my shoulder and had to get a surgery. And since we're on the subject of being efficient and saving money, Atlantic has a very robust workers' comp program. We have great partnerships with numerous carriers. And since we have such a large network, we're able to find the right policy that suits you. And oftentimes there's a good chance we can save you some money too. One of the last things before we move on is I have to mention is unemployment claims. If you've been in our business, the restaurant business, long enough, you probably have discovered how painful and tedious and costly an unemployment claim can be. We handle the claims with the government, so you don't have to. This benefit can save you money along with the most important commodity, which is your time. So I know this has kind of been a fast crash course and a lot to take in, but does anybody out there have any questions? All right. Well, I don't see anybody that wants to. Everybody's being a little shy, so we'll move on. All right. Well, thank you today. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Here's a look at some of our team, not all of them, but check us out at atlanticpayroll.us to learn more about our services and how we can help you attract and maintain quality employees. Remember, we have easy online payroll with pay cards.